Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wavy Baller Hub. My name is Temi. If this is your first time watching, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow the movement that is the Wavy Baller Hub. Guys, it's been over a week since I've been live. So if you're on Twitter with me, make sure to go to youtube.com / Wavy Baller Hub, or just search the Wavy Baller Hub or whatever, and you will see me live there. Make sure to hit the like button for me. Guys, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Just want to double check this. I'm using this new mic. Wanted to make sure you guys could hear me all good. But we're going to be talking all Manchester United news today, guys. All Manchester United news. I haven't really done much content on the January transfer window, but obviously a lot of things have happened. And I have a guest with me today to talk about all this stuff that's gone on this January, essentially. So for those of you who don't know, Suyash, I'm gonna have Suyash joining me right now. Really great guy on Twitter. Really good with the analytics stuff. Really like his opinions and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna bring him in right now. Suyash, how are you doing, bro?
I'm trying to get inside the frame.
How are you doing? Wait, why can't I hear you? Hold up. Why can't I hear you? How about now? Can you hear me, bro?
I can hear you, but can you hear
Okay,
me?
perfect. That was me. It was me. All right, what's going on, man? Good to have you on the show. How have you been, man?
Good. About United, I'm not really happy because there's no
Yeah,
signing. You at least
yeah,
needed one player, I think, and
yeah,
it's not happening. It seems like.
yeah. No, it's been a weird one. This January transfer window, so much to discuss. I mean, let's start off with what you just mentioned, right? No signings coming in. All Manchester United fans know that we need a midfielder desperately. We need a midfielder desperately, and there seems to be a lot of midfielders who are, out of contract or, at affordable rates that we could get, and we're not adding to the squad, which really frustrates me. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're trying to move the players out first because the way it has gone so far, it seems like there's a lot of urgency in getting players out. The very latest news is I'm not sure if you've seen, like Phil Jones is also going out on loan. Bordeaux
Yeah,
is interested in him from
yeah,
League On, and I think that's what the club is trying first. And then with 2 days left, that's what United does. Like deadline day signings, even in January, like
right.
you had the whole half season to assess where you need it, but it seems that it just comes down to the last in the penultimate days of the window.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying there. I think the outgoings were the priority, right? We've heard Ralph talk about our squad being too big in his press conferences. He's mentioned that pretty much every time he's gotten the chance to hold the mic. But that being said, I think that one signing would have made fans at least a bit more hopeful for this season and what we're trying to accomplish. It would show some intent, right, by the squad or by the club, essentially, that okay, we're trying to still get better and accomplish something this season. Um, and then even the people that we're trying to sell, it's a difficult. We're making it such a difficult process. Donny going to Crystal Palace now. Everton's in the mix. Lingard with Newcastle and West Ham. Even our young players who went on loan, it was a bit of a challenge. So I don't know. What do you think that the club could do in the next couple of days that would appease the fans?
I think we are very strongly linked with Boubacar Kamara
Yeah.
from Marseille, and uh, he's more willing to go on a free in the summer. I think that gives him
Yep.
the additional bonuses that you get as a free agent.
Right.
But even if we get him on loan, like there's also a possibility of us getting him on loan. I think that is not bad because it's good for us. It's good for him as well. Like he'll be
Yeah.
a free agent any which ways, and it is also good for Marseille because they get some money, some loan signing fee. I don't know what that is.
Right.
So I think it's good for all the three parties. And let's say the next manager doesn't fancy him, then we don't go after Boubacar Kamara. Maybe we try someone else. But at least we need one body. Like I get the part you need someone with quality, and just not stack the squad. But we are just very thin in that area. Like you have COVID, you have injury, and you just have three players in there: McTominay, Fred, and probably Matic. And then after that, you do not have a player in that position, so you have to have a body in there.
Yeah.
And I would take any loan as well, any loan deal as well.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. And we're going to talk about tactics a little bit later in the show when we discuss Ralph, because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on the way we play, different things. I love what you post on Twitter. I get to scroll every once in a while. And I really like your opinions, man. Like I feel like we agree on a lot of stuff, so I'm excited to exchange that with you, going forward. Shout out to everyone who's watching so far. If you're watching on Twitter, appreciate it. Join us on YouTube and hit that like button for me. Okay, guys, hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 10 likes while we're live here with Suyash. Thank you. Shout out to Ugly Bear again. Shout out to my guy Sonny, who does the graphics for me. Guys, hit the like button for me. But we've talked a bit about the outgoings, and we haven't talked about the biggest outgoing, which is Anthony Martial, right? Going to Sevilla, one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player in the squad. And, it was a very unceremonious ending to, I think, his Manchester United career. I would be shocked if he comes back and plays next season, right? Even though he's on loan. What were your thoughts on the whole situation? Martial going to Sevilla, or what do you think that means for him, and what do you think it means for the club, Martial leaving?
I think it's not the best thing for us necessarily,
Right.
but he was not getting picked any which ways, and he wanted to leave and he wanted to play center forward at United. There was no chance of him playing a center forward, so it is good 6 months for him. And let's say in 6 months' time, if Cavani leaves, maybe we don't know if Ronaldo leaves, then that position is vacant again, and then he can be a starting player again. I'm at least happy that the way he left, where fans, there was some section that was at least singing for him because he was a major contributor to that goal, and the way the manager hugged him, that gave me a lot of warmth because I'm a big fan of Martial as well, and I think we've mismanaged him in the last 6 years. People will say it is competition, and you have to live with that. But I can guarantee you will not find any striker in the world, any world-class striker in the world. I'm not saying Martial is that, but you will not find anyone in their growth period from 19 to 25 getting challenged constantly by like 35, 36-year-old strikers who happen to be the most prolific in Europe. Like, of course, you're going to be behind in terms of race to goals. But you always look at him, he always gives you a really good 90-minute performance. Now, whether he gets a goal or not, the team benefits a lot with him, both defensively and in the build-up and in the final third. So I think he's a very important player, and it's good for him that he's going to a happy place now.
Yeah. I agree with you on so many of those points. I think he divides. He's so polarizing for somebody who's so quiet. He doesn't really speak that much, is pretty private for the most part, but he divides opinion so much. Some people view him as extremely lazy, doesn't work hard, doesn't care enough about the cause. Others, and I would view the others as myself, view him as someone who's so smart, somebody who understands when to make the right pass, doesn't force anything, just has that footballing brain that, I like in a player, right? And he's been subject to a lot of unnecessary criticism in the media. I think from social media, right, with fans, and then two, by the British media, just football media in general. I think he wasn't a very well-liked person. I just think because of his personality, he came across as aloof, somebody who doesn't really care that much. But I think the kid cares a lot. There's just been so many reasons he's not been able to have those consistent seasons, right? I think injuries, people forget he's had struggles with injuries, a big portion of his Manchester United career, right? Then you brought up obviously Zlatan comes in, uh, Lukaku comes in, Cavani comes in, Cristiano Ronaldo comes in, Alexis Sanchez comes in when he's playing well on the left. Like he's always faced, really difficult competition, and people viewed it as him pouting or sulking. But it's I don't know. It's a weird one. I'm a bit hurt that he's leaving. I think he would really help this squad right now, especially the way we're playing. I think he fits the way Ralph plays better than or wants to play better than a Marcus Rashford, right? Better than Anthony Elanga, even though he's young and he's doing well, right? So it's a weird one. It's a weird one. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how Ralph has handled, the squad as a whole, and in this period. Actually, real quick, let's get into the comments. Ugly Bear says Martial is arguably the best striker in La Liga now. There's some pretty decent strikers in La Liga. I won't go that far, but I mean he's up there, no question. Martial is 16th all time in Manchester United's goal scoring record. It's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. I mean, I think he had
He scored the most open play goals in a league season since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, because he didn't took penalties,
yeah,
but he still
yeah,
scored a lot of goals. And
exactly.
for someone that's so young, for his confidence to be constantly taken every alternate season,
Yeah,
I don't think he handled him well. The
yeah,
competition, the competition talk is good, but you have to be competing in the same age group. You're
right,
not supposed to compete against players that are 10 years older and
right,
are veterans of the game. They're bound to score more goals than you.
right,
So I
right.
think it did not improve the team. Like it did not. It wasn't healthy for the club, and it wasn't healthy for the player. From my point of view, he
Yeah,
just constantly went after short-term players and short-term success.
right, right. Oh, did I lose? Did I lose
I
Suyash?
don't know if it glitched,
Oh
and
yeah, no,
I'm
you're
not.
good. You're good. You're
Are
good.
we back?
You're good. You're good. You're good. Yep, we're back. I was gonna say, I was gonna before we get
Okay.
to Ralph, I want to touch on Martial just a little bit more in terms of forwards who aren't elite goal scorers, because I don't think Martial's an elite goal scorer. I think he's an elite player, right? I think that on the left hand side, he may not score 16 goals, but he'll do things that contribute to goals being scored. Maybe not, it might not show up on the stat sheet like what happened our last game against West Ham. He's just an elite player, and I think that a lot of fans now, if you're not scoring 20, 25 goals in a season, they think you're having a bad season, right? Like for instance, people are saying, "Oh, Rashford's having a terrible season or he's in terrible form." I'm like, no, he's playing the same way he's always played. It's just the goals have just dried up, right? So, what are your thoughts on you know players who may not be electric on the stat sheet, but like how do you view stats versus performances? I think that's the best way to phrase the question. And players like Martial and Van de Beek and stuff like that.
I'm not sure if it's buffering from my end or if it's. Can you hear me
Oh
all
yeah,
right?
yeah. I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Uh, yeah, I can hear you. But okay, I think you're back now. Like for me, maybe it's from
Okay.
my side. I don't know which side it is.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you
But
just
but I,
good.
I
I
can
can
see
hear
you
you.
now already. So I think your question was stats versus performance, and
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I was saying, how do you view stats versus performances, and then players like Martial, like we appreciate him, but others don't. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a stats man myself, like in the sense that I like to use that side of the argument as well, and I also look at how people play football. So I like to combine that. And when you look at stats, it's not just goals and assists. Like you have to look at everything, like how many passes he's involved in, which leads to a goal. How does he hold the ball up and allows the team to move up the pitch. So I don't know this, but how many players can you name really that really know how to play like a winger on the left hand side, and then can actually play as a forward as well in the hold up, in the hold up and the how
Right.
you are supposed to help your team out, not just in terms of goals. Like we as a club, we need to decide what sort of philosophy we want. Do we want our strikers to score like 25 goals? Well, if
Right.
you want that, then you have to change Rashford and Greenwood. You want to have wingers that provide for the center forward, because otherwise you'll have the same problems that Cavani and Ronaldo face.
Right.
So either you need to have goal scoring wingers and you need to have someone like Martial, or you decide that you want someone that's a striker that score 30 goal, but
Right.
your wingers are not going to score as much. They are going to be giving you assists all the time. We just do not know what the identity is. And when you put
Right.
both, you try to create goal scorers out of everyone, then everyone will not score. That's the
Right.
biggest problem that we've had in the last 6 months or a year. You
Right.
you try to put too many goal scorers on the pitch, then everyone doesn't score. You try to take one or two of them out, and then suddenly there is a balance in
Right.
the front area. It's not just the midfield that requires balance; even your front requires a balance.
Right.
And as long as we expect Marshall to just be the hold-up player that does not make off-the-ball movement like Cavani does or like Ronaldo does, then we should be fine. But we expect him to be like a 30, 35 goal-scoring forward. He might do maybe one season. We don't know yet. His career is not over yet. But you
Right.
cannot expect him to do that consistently, especially when you play him with inside forwards, not naturally wingers.
100%. 100%. I think people don't understand. I genuinely think a lot of fans don't understand what you just said in terms of playing with, natural wide players, actual wide players, who understand getting back, who understand that they don't need to try and take on 5, 6 people, like it's a huge problem we've had. We're playing forwards as wide players, essentially. Rashford's a forward at the end of the day. He's not really when people say left winger, you know, he's really a left forward. He doesn't want to do the dirty work. He doesn't want to provide for anybody really. He doesn't want to put crosses into the box. He wants to score goals, which is good, right? So when for instance, you brought up, our the imbalance in our front in our front positions, right? If you look at Liverpool, right, for the most part in their successful years of like with Salah, Mane, Firmino was the one sacrificing, right, dropping into deeper positions in midfield, doing some dirty work so those guys could stay higher up the pitch, and people don't appreciate stuff like that. People just don't appreciate stuff like that. They only see the end result, right? They only see the goals, right? So Rashford may score 20 goals, right, or 25 goals. Bruno may score 25, 30 goals, have a ton of assists, but the team isn't functioning the way the team should function. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. Like you mentioned Firmino. There's another example. There's Gabriel Jesus at City.
Yeah,
In City's successful season, how many goals was Gabriel Jesus scoring?
not a
No,
lot.
but his job was to fight hard for the team. Off the ball, he works hard, and he essentially plays like a midfielder when they don't have the ball. How many
Yep.
of our forwards do they drop back when we don't have the ball? Marshall is being perceived as lazy,
But
but
he
he's
does
actually
that.
one of the first players that actually tracks back. He doesn't press as hard as like a Daniel James, or you would say an Alanga, someone, but he does track back. He knows when to fall back and form a block with the team.
Yep.
So there's something that people don't notice, but you see players that run really hard when we are attacking, and
Right.
people think that's the only work rate you need. But when we don't have the ball, you still need the work rate, and
Right.
that's some of the other players that do not provide.
Right.
Off lately though, I'm seeing a little bit more work rate than usual under Rangnick. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna dive deeper into the tactics, Randick, all this stuff. I'm enjoying this, Suyash. I don't know about you. This is what I expected. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Me
Yeah,
too,
but
me too.
yeah, let's get into the comments. I don't so Ugly Bear says I don't agree with stats. If fans concern themselves with even the littlest stat, you will never accept any player. I don't agree with that, Ugly Bear. I do believe in stats, right? But I take stats for what I use the eye test first, and then I'll use stats as kind of a way to validate what I've
Evidence.
seen, right? As evidence to
Yeah.
what I've seen Rashford play terribly and score a goal. I mean, I've seen Bruno play bad and score goals. I've seen different. It doesn't. I've seen, days where Bruno hasn't scored a goal and he's played excellent, right? And people won't really think he had the best game because he didn't score, right? So it's all a balancing act, right? It's all a balancing act. I think stats do matter. If no Manchester United striker really should be at the, we're used to having strikers who score 15, 20, 25 goals, right? For instance, you mentioned Gabriel Jesus. I was at the Manchester Derby this year, the one where we lost 2-0. I was really close, front row at Old Trafford, essentially, and Gabriel Jesus was on the right side. And just watching him play, I'm just like, he just doing the dirty work, playing on the right-hand side, pressing, doing all that stuff that people don't see. It's the dirty work. People think City are just this elegant team. No, they win the ball back quickly. That's the reason they're so great, right? That's the reason they're so great. Let's talk about Ralph a little bit, right? Let's talk about Ralph a little bit. What have your thoughts been so far on Ralph and his time here? How do you feel like he's adjusted, and do you think we are improving under him?
So this is actually a good time to speak because I did mention once that at the end of Jan is where I'll judge him. Like I want to see what team he picks because I think team selection is probably the topmost quality that a manager should have at this level. People stress too much on coaching and suddenly changing a player to something he's not. At this age, very rarely happens that a player becomes completely different. They need to have that attribute, and a manager can expand more on that. But in terms of team selection, I would say I've been happier than what I've seen with Ole. I do not like the midfield balance as much, but still, I look at other areas and I think he's improved at the other areas in terms of balance, in the sense that Rashford is no longer a guaranteed starter and he comes on as a sub, which I'm happy with. I think he'll be a regular again, but with so far what I've seen, Ilang on the left wing, even though he may not be like a guaranteed goal scorer, I think he offers that balance that someone like a Mason or Rashford don't on the wide
Right.
area.
Right.
I think right back I'm happy with Diogo Dalot. I'm a massive fan of his, like the way he's playing as of now. He still has a couple of qualities that he needs to improve on. His crossing and the way he dribbles with the ball. But I think overall I'm happy with Dalot, like his passing, his heading. He intercepts the ball before it gets to a player. Like he puts the right sort of pressure. It gives us a chance indirectly. Like he may not have registered an assist so far, but I think he's made a lot of indirect assists to the team.
Yeah.
Telles is like the only position that I'm a bit you could say jury's out with Alex Telles.
Yeah.
I was much happier with Luke Shaw on the left hand side. So I think that's the only position I'm not really happy with. But just comparing with Ole, I think there is definitely improvements in the sense that the team does not look that is going to score. Sorry, it's going to concede that easily. So in that
Right.
sense, that word he mentions a lot, which is control. I think there's control off the ball, definitely. I think on the ball there are a lot of questions still, like
Right.
in terms of how we create and how many goals we'll be scoring, especially because we've not had a tough team yet.
Right. And you're making a lot of great points, especially at the back. I'm glad to see that Maguire's not a guaranteed starter right now.
Yeah,
I think that's huge, right? I think certain players definitely got comfortable, right? They got extremely comfortable. Maguire was one of them. Rashford was one of them. Bruno was one of them. I think they got a bit too. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was one of them. I think they all got a bit too comfortable, right? And Maguire played really well against West Ham. Like I had to give him his credit. I thought that was the best I've seen him play since last season, right? And the back end of last season, I had to give him his flowers. I'm not a Maguire fan by any means. I don't think he's better than Victor Lindelof. I don't care how many performances he puts in. I don't think he's better than Victor Lindelof. But that being said, he played well. He played well, so I have to give him his credit, right? But I think him knowing that I'm the club captain of Manchester United and I'm not guaranteed to start, I think that got that gear going. I think that's the best thing Ralph has done is shake things up. I like Luke Shaw better than Alex Telles, but am I mad that Luke Shaw is not on the bench or not? Or excuse me, not starting? No, because I thought another player who got a little too comfortable, just a little too comfortable. So now these players understand, like, hey, my I'm not guaranteed to start, right? Um, it's making the team gradually get better. I think this little off period they've had is going to be huge. Is going to be huge for the team, right? So it's a positive. What are your thoughts on us kind of moving to a? We started off with the 4-2-2-2-2. That didn't work, right? It didn't work. It was clunky. The players didn't get it. Bruno in a wide position was weird. Certain players just our front two wasn't looking good. Then we moved to a kind of a 4-3-3. It looked for me, it kind of looked like a 4-1-4-1. People were calling it 4-3-3, whatever. It's all doesn't really matter. But what are your thoughts on the 4-3-3? I like it better, right? I don't mind seeing McTominay have the responsibility of being the screener, right? And having the responsibility of picking out passes. I think it's better. It gives us more balance, right? The balance that we're talking about. I think our wide players are playing like wide. Lingard looks like he's not great going forward, right? He's really not good going forward. But I'm not here to criticize him like that. But I think he's giving us a balance that we were missing, right? What are your thoughts on the formation shift? And do you want to see this continue? McTominay playing as a six,
I think the formation is only as good as the players you pick. For example, you should see fans putting formation. On this happens a lot on Twitter. Like they put their 4-3-3, but they pick like two tens and they pick like an 8 in the middle. And I think even with Ralph, because he doesn't have that profile, because he's mentioned there's a profile missing. So I think definitely in the mid three there is that profile missing. But just on McTominay quickly, I think his performances have improved since Ralph has come in. He was getting criticized for not passing forward enough, not battling it out in the middle too much, and I think his intensity has gone up a level since Ralph has come in. So you have to appreciate that. But I would like to see McTominay as an 8. The other position is Bruno. I don't really see Bruno as an 8. I think a lot of people see him because of his work rate, but an 8 has to do more than that. And I think he's still playing a bit like, I don't know if this is a term, but he's still playing like a hybrid 10, 8/10, because he's
right,
still going. He's still someone that will go. And if you're honest, like his strengths lie in the opposition box. Like
right,
his strengths is in the penalty area, and he
right,
has to feature there more. So he has to play as a 10 for me. And if
right,
you want to play a 4-3-3, then you have to have like proper two eights in the middle and a
right,
6. And I think that will improve us even more. And I think if you want to pick Bruno, you probably want to pick him in one of the front areas. Like think of him as a forward, not necessarily as a midfielder. But
right.
I do see more discipline in him. And ever since we've switched to a 4-3-3, I think he's there may be stats I've not really checked, but I think he might have completed like more passes. He might have lost the ball a lot less playing in the mid three.
Yeah, yeah,
But then,
no, yeah, no. I agree with you on a few of those things. I think that Bruno the other day played. I thought he played well against West Ham, as in that position. I think he has to. I think he's learning to become more disciplined. And I think the more disciplined he becomes, the better player he's going to be, even though his stats may drop. Right? I don't think people understand that. So I personally believe that he's a very good player. I know a lot of people are torn on him. Oh, he's too frivolous with the ball, which I think is true. But I still think he's a very good player. You can't do what he's done on the statistically and be a bad player to me. Yes, there's things that he needs to improve on, right? But I think that with the right coach, right, with the right guidance, I think he's always been the player that he's had free reign to do what he wants. In Portugal, for Sporting, he had free reign to do what he wanted. He came to Manchester United, free reign to do whatever he wanted, and now he's being asked to refine his game, and I think he's going to be a better player for that. we're talking about Scott McTominay. I'm someone who's my biggest criticism of him is he hides, right? Not that he's a bad player. Sometimes you won't feel his presence on the pitch, right? But under Ralph, these past few games, like I'm like, okay, he's playing with more confidence. He's asking to receive the ball in certain positions where he would normally, hide essentially, right? So I think those little things are positive, and I think Ralph is finding that balance. I want to talk about the right hand side really quickly. Let's talk about the right hand side with Mason Greenwood, because he's the person who's pretty much played every game on that side since Ralph has been here. What are your thoughts on him on the right hand side? I'm a bit torn because I do think he's improving, but I think that he's ultimately a number 9. What are your thoughts?
Um, I, at this stage, I'm not really sure what position is best for him, because for us to have a number 9, like if you are like, for example, a good goal scoring 9, then you got to have good heading ability. You got to be able to lead the line on your own. Hold up is not really there in his game. And then you put him on the wide side. All he does is he tries to get into the central areas and try and shoot. He's not someone who's going to hug the touch line. He's not someone who's going to cross as much. And he's not someone that also appreciates his right back when he plays on the wide. He's not someone who plays in combination with them. So I'm a bit divided with him, but I think his best position would be more like a right-sided forward in a front two. I think that would be his best position. Like for example, if we had stuck to the 4-2-2, then I think you would have needed someone like a Martial on the left hand side who can hold the ball up, and Mason can take advantage of that. And they both have combined well to score goals like for each other when it went well the season
Right,
before last. So I think something of that, but it doesn't work when you have both Ronaldo and Mason up front, or if you have Cavani and Mason up front, because
right,
there is no chemistry. Because both of them want to get at the end of the things. Who's going to
right,
hold the ball for someone? So I think he is more of a right forward for me,
right,
but not in a 4-3-3, maybe in a 4-4-2, the traditional 4-4-2, or like the 4-2-2 of Ralph.
right.
But he's definitely not a winger or a lone striker for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think people really want Mason to stay in the side. Um, I think that Mason would be best served coming, you know, for me, I think he's going to be a 9, right? I think that he's physically improving, right? I think he's getting his grown man body a little bit every couple months. You look at him, he's getting stronger. I think the hold up play, he has the ability to develop that. I think there's certain players, Marcus Rashford never was able to develop it. I think Mason has the ability to develop that part of his game and improve at it. He just needs games there, and we haven't really given him that in his career so far. He's played a few games up top, but not really consistently, right? I think that he'd be best served coming in off the bench, at like Marcus Rashford has done, right, and just be an impact player, because when he comes on, he gives a different energy, he gives a different pace than some of our other wide players, right? So I know fans might not want to hear that, but I think it's just a fact to me that he's not a right midfielder, right? If we play a 4-2-3-1, or if we play a 4-1-4-1, whatever, he doesn't play like a midfield player. So maybe this 4-3-3, he'll have a little bit less defensive responsibility. He can shine more, but I think that the goals have dried up for him because simply he's gotten a bit predictable, right? Just a bit predictable in terms of we know he wants to cut in and shoot, and he's not gonna cross the ball. But yeah, what do you think about Jadon Sancho and his start to his Manchester United career?
Um, I was expecting him to take time, because I did maintain that coming from Bundesliga to Premier League would be difficult, because you're not going to play in the transition so much. I think in Bundesliga you get to play in the transition so much because teams that are not afraid to lose. In Premier League, it's it. there's so much at stake to just to stay in the Premier League. Forget the top three or the top four or the top seven. Even to stay in the Premier League, there's a lot at stake, and I think
Right.
teams make it really difficult to score against. And I
Right.
think I was sensing that he will take time. The only thing that I'm a bit pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised is that I'm a little disappointed in how he's not able to keep the ball, because I
Mhm.
thought that aspect of his game would be a lot better. Like, I think he's losing the ball a lot easier than I expected him to. The other things, like in terms of getting the goals and assists, I'm okay if it takes time, but just the basic of how to dribble past players or how to touch the ball, control it sometimes.
Right.
I'm a little surprised that it's not as good as what I thought it to be. But I think it's more of a mental thing or a confidence thing with Jadon Sancho, and I think that will come with the right set of players. I think
Right.
playing with Aaron Wan-Bissaka will not help him as much. But if we allow him to grow his partnership with either on the left side with Luke Shaw or on the right side with Diogo Dalot, like, because he's been that player at Dortmund. He had Hakimi or he had Rafael Guerrero, so he
Right.
could use the fullback stretching the pitch, and he used to stay inside in the pockets. He used to exchange passes with them, and then get inside the box, either score or make a very uh, like a very short pass. He's not
Right.
really a crosser of the ball, but he's someone that makes really short passes and
Right.
gets these good combination plays. And I think it'll happen with time with him. I think
Okay.
he just needs time and he needs like-minded players, I would say,
Right.
in and around him.
Yeah. I agree. Are you surprised at his lack of use on the right hand side? I think when a lot of us saw Jadon Sancho coming here, he would be the return of us having a really star quality right winger, but he hasn't really been featured there most of the games he's played. Are you surprised by that? Or are you disappointed by that?
Um, I don't want to say like I'm Nostradamus or something, but I did say a few things like he'll not be as good as we are think want him to be. Let's say at least for this season. I'm not saying because he lacks any of those qualities, because the kind of football that we played, it's not too much about. Uh, am I
You're
back
good.
or
Yep, you're back. You're back. You're back.
okay? So I think because I was expecting or anticipating him to be played with teammates that are not on the same that
Oh,
was my worry with Jadon Sancho,
okay.
and that's why I feared that he will not immediately enjoy playing in the Premier League because of how we play football, especially how we played under Ole.
Right, right. I think that's you're bringing up a good point. You know, I don't. I know I think he has had games where he's been a little bit frivolous with the ball. You're right, but I don't think it's been as bad as people have made it out to be. You know, I still think that a lot of the challenges that he's playing with players who they don't receive the ball in the right areas, they don't pass the ball in the right areas. You know, it's just a lot of sloppy mistakes. That contribute to him not playing well. Um, but I think that I think he's going to be I think he's going to be one of our best players next season. Even though he's had the struggles now, I think he's going to find his form, find out what his niche is in the Premier League. If that means he's going to be a distributor, if that means he has to be more aggressive as a goal scorer, I think he's going to find that niche and be a player that, we expected him to be, right? In terms of Ralph again, and him running this 4-4-3. Oh, let me get this comments. Temi, Sancho doesn't suit counterattacking. He's a possession 1-2 give goes. I mean, I think at Dortmund there was a ton of counterattacks that he was a major part of, right? I think a lot of his goals and assists came on the counterattack. Yes, he can do all of that. I think that's why he was such a highly valued player, right? He had the ability to play the short game, give the 1-2s and all that stuff, and then he had the ability to you know burst forward and make it, be a part of that electric Dortmund counterattack, right? So I think that was something that was really, one of his assets. That's why he was such a highly valued player, right? So Yash?
Yeah. Again, like I said, we need to play in the transition a lot, whether that's counter attacking like Ole played, or whether what Ralph is trying to do, like he wants the team to constantly transition from winning the ball and trying to score immediately. I think Sancho will benefit from that, but style wise that's fine, but like I said, players wise he needs those that pass the ball at the right moment, 1 2 touch players. But at United you have a lot of players, when they get the ball, they delay that pass because they try and beat players, they try and shoot for themselves.
Right.
And that's why players like Donny hasn't lived up to his expectation. That's why player like Martial suffered to an extent, and that's why Sancho, like I said earlier, I felt that he would struggle to adapt with this Man United team.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing how fans view players. The Rashford versus Martial, who's better, or Donny versus Bruno, or Dallo versus Aaron Wan-Bissaka. It's very interesting because people really view players differently. I know some very, very intelligent football minds who don't like Anthony Martial, and it shocks me. Some people have complained about Ronaldo. Is Ronaldo's not they'll say Ronaldo's a terrible player. Some people think Ronaldo's still really good. It's just I guess that's the nature of football. That's the nature of football. What are your thoughts on Ralph at the end, going into the end of the season? Do you think you would want to see him extended, or do you want to see a new manager come in?
It depends, like what is our plan. If like there were 4 names that came out in the report the other day. It was Luis Enrique, it was Lopetegui, and I think the other two were Eric Ten Hag and Pochettino, I guess.
Yeah.
So out of those, I really fancy Luis Enrique. And let's say Luis Enrique agrees to join us, but it is only after the Winter World Cup. Then I'm okay for Ralph to continue for like another 6 months, because that shows that we are really investing in a long term project, and
Right.
are really thinking as a football club and not looking for some short term solutions. So if it is Luis Enrique and we are waiting for him, then I'm okay for Ralph to continue. But let's say if we want Eric Ten Hag and he's immediately available, like he's ready to join with a preseason, then we should go for him as well. So it depends, like who we want. Like who do you wish, or who do you prefer?
Yeah. Personally, me, I wanted Pochettino still. I think that what he did at Spurs is so underrated because there
Yeah,
was no trophy at the end of the day. But if you really, really dig deep and you look at what he's accomplished and what has happened to Spurs since he's left, it's one of the most impressive things we've seen over the past decade. I really believe that. There was a I think during that period that they got to a Champions League final, there was like 3 straight transfer windows where he didn't bring in anybody. Which is unheard of, and they still got to a Champions League final. So I think we have the owners we have, right? That's just going to be a fact. The Glazers aren't going anywhere. I'm sorry, it sounds very negative. We can protest all we want. They aren't going anywhere unless they want to, right? Unless they want to. And I think having a manager who can work within that framework, right? Pochettino was spending pennies. If you give him X amount of dollars, like this PSG period, he's not the one signing these players. Like, I don't think he's the one really saying Messi come here, Neymar, or Wijnaldum. I don't think Sergio Ramos. I don't think he picked all those players. I think they were just, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, you wanted to complete that point, or?
No, yeah, I was just saying. I think that the job he did at Spurs, if we give him the money we've given, say Ali, right? I think we would just go to it would be Klopp-esque for me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's interesting. I've made the exact same point. When we were getting linked with Pochettino, I was saying, do not look at his PSG time a lot because PSG is not run like a club. It's more like a drama company. The
Right.
players are going for parties. The culture is not right at that club. And
Right.
this is something that Thomas Tuchel said as well when he came to Chelsea. It's like Chelsea feels more like a sporting club, and at PSG he had to manage their families, the players' friends. Like there was a lot of thing that was going beyond the pitch that you had to manage, and it's a bit. You'd say it's more like a fancy circus that's going on there. It's not just football,
Right.
but at Chelsea he found a very disciplined club, and the discipline off the pitch shows on the pitch as well. I think that's also
Right.
what's wrong at Man United. Uh, and with Pochettino, I'm really impressed with what he did at Southampton. I'm really impressed with what he did at Spurs. If you also see there are little similarities in how he wants to play football, and Ralph might warm to him more than maybe the other sort of coaches, because Poch is also about off the ball work rate, run to win the ball back immediately, and then it's also about vertical passes, not so much width, more about narrow play, and I think there are similarities there. There
Right.
are very much similarities with him and Enrique and Ten Hag. So there might be more friction in terms of the identity of football.
Right.
But if we just among those four, I'm not saying Poch is bad. I do. If he joins us, I will definitely back him. But out of those, I'm just preferring someone who's more about possession-based football, someone that's also succeeded at with bigger expectations, with bigger players, has the experience of the big games, and I think Luis Enrique would be that calming head that we need, and make us play the right sort of football. Because uh, earlier I said I'm impressed with Ralph's selection, but his football is not something that I enjoy. I
Right.
enjoy more of possession-based football,
Right.
where because it's very simple for me. No matter how advanced you are with football tactics, you keep the ball for majority of the game, you are not going to concede as many goals. You are like it's likely you're going to score more. You're going to control the game more. So I think that's why Pep Guardiola like works over so many other coaches, because he has this philosophy where it's all about possession, and
Right.
I like that sort of football.
Right. Yeah, no, that's very fair. That's very fair. I do think that Poch is, like you mentioned, he's not a pet by any means. You know, I think his teams were very heavily based upon pressing and winning the ball back. As opposed to I mean, Pep does that too, but Pep, once he wins it back, he wants to keep it for another 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes. That's just how he operates. But yeah, to your point, Luis Enrique, I do think would be a good signing, or a good manager. Would he be? For me, it's more about. I think that there needs to be a balance of the manager understands that he's not going to get everything he wants, but he can still work within that, right? And someone like an Enrique, somebody like somebody who's just experienced and you know wants what they want, like a Conte. Even though I think Conte would have been fine, it's just always going to be a war. There's going to be that
True.
internal war, and I just it sounds like conceding, but it's just a fact. I think Pochettino knows how to do the politics. He'd be able to do the politics of Manchester United while coaching at a high level, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
More
just
diplomatic.
exactly very he can do the diplomatic thing that Ali did, but at the same time he can coach well. He can coach football at a high level, right? If you give him the players, Harry Kane, free. Dele Alli was less than 500,000 pounds, I think. And he turned those guys into mega stars. I think he would promote the youth. If he sees the talent there, I think he wouldn't be hesitant to play Diallo or play a Medjbri if he thinks that they're good enough, right? So that's where I'm a bit more inclined to see Poch. But no, it's all about opinion. That's what we love. That's what we love. That's what we love. We're gonna wrap up here really shortly, Suyash. I really appreciate the time. I really appreciate the time. I think the next thing I'm going to ask you is, looking forward into this season. Let's real quick. What would you want your formation to be, and what would you want your starting 11 to be?
Um, I want this 4-3-3 to continue. Um, the only change is, like you said, I'm a big fan of Lindelof myself. Like, this is not saying Maguire is bad. I just rate Varane and Lindelof a lot higher, or maybe just slightly higher than Maguire. So I would keep the pair of Lindelof and Varane, like Ralph has done, even when Maguire was fit. And then the only change I would make in the back is Luke Shaw for Alex Telles, because I don't think Alex Telles has convinced me enough. Like, off the ball, his intensity has been great, something that Shaw really needs to have. I think, like you pointed out, with Shaw, it's the mentality part and his fitness that he needs to improve. But other than that, I think Shaw is the better player. And then in the midfield, uh, I'm not sure how many games he can manage, but with the players we have, I think Matic is the only player that can actually screen the back four. So I would want him, and not just screening the back four. He's one of our best progressive players. Like, he has the line breaking passes in him, and he with him, even at this age, like, you control games to a certain extent when you do get the ball, which we do not do without him. Like, Scott McTominay and Fred are not natural at it. So I'd make that change, and then I would put McTominay on the right, and I would have Bruno on the left. At least on the current format, keep Bruno on the left. Maybe it would have been Pogba on the left, but for that you need to have then Elanga on the left hand side. So I'll keep Bruno on the left, and on the left wing it could be either of Pogba or Sancho. That's what I would prefer. Oh no, wait! I would actually have either Pogba or Ilanga to continue, and then on the right side I would like to have Sancho, and up front, I would try Mason Greenwood and see how that works. But it's really difficult at this moment, like, because we've not seen what I'm giving is a very different combination, and we've not seen, and I'm
Yep.
making so many changes. So this would seem like, why are you trying to make so many changes? So
Right.
if I have to just make one change, the one change that really pops in my head is Luke Shaw on the left hand side,
Right.
and probably Paul Pogba in games where we know we are going to face a low block. And there, in those games, you have to drop either of Greenwood or Elanga for Pogba. I think that's the only two changes that comes to my mind.
Right. Okay. So we pretty much have the same. We pretty much have the same squad. I would definitely have the back four you had. I think in that DM position, you mentioned Matic, and I agree with everything you had to say about him in terms of the line breaking passes, the ability to screen the back four, all that stuff. I just personally think that he doesn't have that ability to play week in and week out. And you need, if you want to have somebody in the starting 11 with consistency, that player needs to have the ability to play week in, week out, right? So I would play McTominay as a six, but in certain games, bring in Matic, when you feel like it's necessary, right? I would play Bruno Fernandez, and I would play Fred right in that midfield with him. On the left hand side, I'd have Paul Pogba, right? I would have Cristiano Ronaldo up top still, and I would play Jadon Sancho on the right. The reason I'm saying keep Cristiano Ronaldo in is because we haven't seen him with creative players trying to get him the ball, right? I think that if you have, you know, Bruno a little bit deeper, Pogba on the left, Sancho on the right, he has more opportunities to score goals. He's not really getting great chances. It's not like he's missing a ton of great chances. We're asking him to do things he doesn't really want to do. He's dropping deep, which I find repulsive. That's not where he should be, right? I think that I just think that if he had more creative players around him, he'd still score a ton of goals because that's just the player he is. So yeah, I agree. Pogba on the left. I wonder how Ralph views him. Does Ralph view him as a midfield player? Does he view him as a wide player? I'm interested to see what that looks like. But I think he's going to be playing, right? I think he's going to be playing in that next game, which should be pretty interesting. But yeah, no, Suyash, this was great. We're coming up on an hour. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Hopefully we can do this again. Hopefully we can do this again soon. Guys, if you haven't followed Suyash on Twitter, real quick, I think your Twitter is in your bio, right, Suyash?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So Suyash, thank you so much again for hopping on with me. All right. Guys, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow the movement that is the Wavy Baller Hub, and I will see all of y'all very, very shortly. Deuces.
Thanks for having me, Temi.